Professor tragically died because of his young lover's greed. Thinking he found a girlfriend to forget the pain of losing his wife, Ronald Bettig did not expect that it was all just a prearranged plot aimed at his assets. On August 15, 2016, Ronald Bettig, a 56-year-old professor at Pennsylvania State University, was reported missing. At Ronald's house, the police met his 34-year-old girlfriend, Danelle Geyer, and her 41-year-old uncle, George Ishler. Both told the police that they had gone with Ronald to a beach in Delaware, and had last seen him on August 12, when the trio returned to Ronald's house. Danelle said that she went to bed that night, and when she woke up, the professor had disappeared. They said that Ronald had been depressed after the death of his wife a few years ago. Danelle thought something bad had happened to her boyfriend because he was having some mental health issues. 2 days later, the police found Ronald's car near an abandoned limestone quarry. After searching the surrounding area, they found the professor's body lying at the bottom of the quarry about 23 meters deep. The pathologist concluded that the victim had survived for about 2 days after the fall, despite breaking both arms, both femurs, hips, and jaw. According to family and friends, Ronald fell into a state of depression after his second wife suddenly died in 2011. He lost weight, stopped leaving the house, and then his memory began to decline. By 2015, Ronald's health problems had worsened. He could no longer teach and had to take a leave of absence. During that time, he befriended George Ishler after meeting him at a marijuana shop. George told Ronald about his troubled niece, Danelle Geyer. After losing custody of her first son to her ex-husband, Danelle was struggling to make ends meet and had no place to live. In 2016, just 7 months before her death, Ronald agreed to let Danelle stay at his house, allowing her and her child to live in the basement. As the two talked more and more, their relationship quickly turned into love. Relatives also noticed that Ronald seemed more energetic and motivated instead of giving up like before. Danelle told the police that Ronald took care of her, fed her and provided her with shelter, and that he even paid for most of the supplies she needed to raise her child. Ronald's death was initially ruled a suicide, but after a witness revealed that he saw a man, a woman, and a child at the scene, George and Danelle became suspects. George took the initiative to share with the police his suspicions that his niece was involved in the professor's death. He said the couple had an argument during a beach vacation. Danelle also called another man to the house while Ronald was missing that weekend. But when questioned by police, Danelle denied any involvement and said George was responsible for the death. Danelle said that George had threatened to kill her, and she had not told the truth from the beginning. She feared for her and her child's lives. According to Danelle, the reason George wanted to kill Ronald was because of money. After discovering that George had secretly used her credit card to shop without permission, Ronald became very angry. Their original plan was to use the pretext of paying to take the victim to the beach in Delaware, then kill her and make it look like a drowning accident. When that failed, George offered to pay the debt with the marijuana plants he was growing in the quarry. Danelle said they drove to the quarry. George and Ronald left to harvest the marijuana, then George returned alone. When she asked where Ronald was, he said, "I killed him, and if you say anything to anyone, I'll kill you and your son." When questioned again by police, George admitted to pushing the victim into the quarry, but claimed that Danelle was the mastermind behind it all. He said he was convinced by Danelle to commit the crime because she wanted Ronald's assets. George explained that he had written a will in June 2016 and had Ronald sign it while he was in a state of mental distress. The will gave Danelle Ronald's house and George the rest of the estate. According to police, the will was Danelle's motive for wanting her boyfriend dead. She was certain she would receive about $1 million in Ronald's shares, but authorities say the shares were only worth $50,000. George said that after Ronald discovered they were secretly spending money on their credit cards, he wanted to end the relationship with Danelle. Fearing that she would have nowhere to go, and would have to take her child out on the streets, Danelle planned to have her uncle push her boyfriend off a cliff. The pair then returned to clean up the scene, leaving the car behind to pretend that Ronald had gone there alone and committed suicide. Police believe that Danelle's move into Ronald's home and becoming his girlfriend was planned from the start. George introduced Danelle to build a fake relationship and gain the trust of the traumatized 22-year-old man. The real reason was that Danelle needed money to regain custody of her eldest son. In April 2018, George and Danelle were tried and convicted of first-degree murder. Both were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.